my mom, she really values education. And so she wanted to instill that in me from a young age. So I went to a charter school and a charter elementary and middle school. And I feel like that foundation has really shaped me to value education because it was college prep. And now that I'm in high school, I wanted to further my education past just the public school, I'd say, barrier.
Mm-hmm.
So I joined this program called SEL Scholars, and right now we have college admissions boot camp, and that's what I'm going to be doing for the next 2 weeks. And education is really important to me.
You know, it's so interesting because education is so important to me, and I value it. I mean, we have kids that can't send it. Some of our kids really couldn't send their kids to college if we didn't send them, but we think it's the most important thing in the world. But I have such a different story. It's so funny because my mother and father were orphaned, abandoned, adopted, abused, so to speak, and they worked all their childhood life, and so they knew how to work. And things got better in terms of their work, but I learned how to work, but reading was not allowed because you were sitting when you were reading. And my folks were so concerned about your knowing how to work because that's how they survived, you know. And what's interesting is it had the opposite effect on me. I went to school and I was like, took in every book I could.
Yeah, like
because I was denied, you know, reading. So I read under the covers, and my mother was brilliant, by the way. If she had gone to college, she would own this city. But it's so interesting that your family valued education from a different standpoint. You and I share a lot, but coming from such different places, because I certainly wanted to change things. I always understood that. And it wasn't from, I don't understand, I think it was from my church, because the church was very supportive of my family. And so I kept being a change as a child. I was a real change agent. I started off, by the way, with this funny thing where they were doing vaccinations for people. We lived in the projects, and they vaccinated people. They came around with trucks and vaccinated the kids. So I went to get my vaccination, you know, and they vaccinated me, and I saw another child that wouldn't get her vaccination, and she was crying, and I knew how important it was. And so I went over and I said, I'll show you how. And so I went over and I got 2 vaccinations. And then she got hers, only I was in bed with a case of something horrible. I can't remember. But it was like, this was what you were supposed to do in the world. I was very young, but it was very right.
I got into leadership through my, I was in Girl Scouts for 8 years.
Oh.
So when I was younger, obviously I was the youngest, but as I got older, the girls that I grew up with in my cohort,
Right.
they left, and so I was eventually the only girl left, the oldest girl, and the younger girls looked up to me, and so I had to set an example and help.
Yeah.
That's how I think I got into leadership, because I had to lead the other younger girls and help them out.
I also got into leadership to some extent through the Girl Scouts. It was interesting. I think everybody hopes to be seen, in the sense of, you know, not just seen, but seen. And I had a Girl Scout teacher, or leader, not a teacher, that saw me. I mean, I felt like she was a person in the community that really saw my ability and saw who I was. And it made an enormous difference to me. It wasn't that I was doing work like you were with younger children, but I felt like somebody knew what my potential was. And I don't remember many names, but I remember Miss Cruikshank, because that was the leader.